So imagine being a 14-year-old boy with your 9-year-old sister in tow, trekking through God knows where, chased by dogs, half-starved, nursing an infected hand, all while trying to find one relative in a place you've never been. Sounds like an adventure story, right? Well, not the fun kind. This is Dayward. But before I reveal that, let's talk about the story. We're in post-emancipation America. Slavery has been abolished. The chains are off, the fields are emptying, and predictably, some white folks are not too thrilled about this sudden freedom business. Miss Thalia, owner of the ironically named plantation Five Daughters, is one of them. She considers
the African race an ungrateful lot of thieves for deserting once emancipation came around. All I gotta say is that we always fed and clothed you slaves.
Yes, Miss Thalia, and maybe broke their backs while you were at it. So, naturally, when Lazarus and his younger sister Mary Celeste bolt from Five Daughters, Miss Thalia keeps her word and sets Miss Kittredge's dog on them. They get a head start, sure, because Miss Thalia is clearly generous. But dogs don't respect head starts. They just run. 14-year-old Lazarus is the older brother, protector, and emergency dogfighting expert. 9-year-old Mary Celeste, his sister, is deaf. But here's the thing. She wasn't born deaf. It crept in, slowly, ominously. At first, she just complained about hearing strange sounds. Then, silence. What do the white folk do? Call a doctor? No, they call the local veterinarian, the man who usually treats horse carbuncles. Because clearly, a black child must be livestock. The veterinarian advises Master and Miss to refuse to tolerate the girl's melancholy and to end her bed rest. So instead of treatment, Mary Celeste gets forced out of bed and into silence. Eventually, her hearing is gone. Just like that. Now back to the journey. These kids are not just running, they're surviving on blackberry juice, instinct, and stories passed down by their parents. One of those tales? A man once suffocated a dog by wrapping some homespun from his shirt around his hand and ramming it down the dog's throat. MacGyver who? Well, Lazarus tries the same trick. When the dog catches up to them, he rams his clothed hand down its throat and chokes it to death. Victory? Sort of. His hand becomes infected, putrefying as they travel. He doesn't get to sit back and sip juice boxes after this hero move. He trudges forward, hand rotting, still shielding Mary Celeste, feeding on wild fruit, praying not to die. We also learn about their parents during this harsh journey. Their father? He didn't exactly die a noble death. No, Packer writes,
how their father had come to be killed, not from his ear being nailed to the post, but from scratching it day and night until it pussed over.
That's a detail that just sticks with you. It's painful, slow, and honestly grotesquely human. His death isn't poetic, it's absurd and tragic. Their mother? After her husband's death, she runs off into the woods, witless and mad. She's out there for 3 days, looping around the same patch of trees less than 4 miles away, just trying to escape.
She'd been gone nearly 3 days, then caught pneumonia and died before she could be properly whipped for attempting to escape. If churning around the same copse of trees less than 4 miles off could be called escaping.
And there it is, the absurdity of a system where a dead woman is still considered eligible for punishment. Packer balances horror and dark humor in the most chilling ways. Eventually, Lazarus and Mary Celeste reach New Orleans and find their Aunt Minnie, their only surviving relative. But this reunion isn't exactly a grand Hollywood ending. Aunt Minnie has 7 children of her own and clearly stuff she's dealing with. Which is why this story isn't really about the ending. It's about the journey, the pain, the survival, the psychological scars. It's about being a child trying to act like a man, and a deaf girl forced to silence in a world that barely acknowledged her humanity, even when she could hear. Packer doesn't spoon-feed you hope. There's no triumphant orchestra playing as the kids find Minnie, no miracle cure for Lazarus's hand, no profound wisdom dropped by Minnie to tie everything together. And I love that, because real life doesn't give you cinematic closure either. Now that you've walked this path with me, the story I've been talking about is Dayward by ZZ Packer. It's a short story that hits hard, quietly but deeply. Let me tell you what stayed with me. First, the way Packer handled the metaphor of running. Lazarus and Mary Celeste aren't just running away from dogs, they're running from a past that still has teeth. Even with slavery officially abolished, the tools of oppression, dehumanization, indifference, inherited trauma, are very much alive. Then there's Mary Celeste's deafness. It's both literal and symbolic. She can't hear, and the world doesn't hear her either. The cruelty of her treatment, being handed over to a horse vet rather than a physician, says everything about how enslaved Black children were seen. Not as humans needing care, but as animals to be managed. Her brother Lazarus represents a different kind of suffering. His infection, his burden of responsibility, his maturity beyond his age. All these are signs of what it means to grow up Black and male in a system that demands your labor and offers no protection. And let's not forget that name, Lazarus. He shares it with the biblical figure who rose from the dead. There's a kind of resurrection in his story. He survives, barely, with his infected hand and sister by his side. But survival here isn't glorious. It's what happens when you keep crawling forward, bleeding and broken, because there's no other option. The story also works beautifully as a metaphor for the Black American experience, not just in the past, but in the present. I mean, look around. The ghosts of 5 daughters are still here. They don't look the same. Maybe they don't own plantations, maybe they don't set dogs on us, but their ideology, still barking, still chasing. As ZZ Packer reminds us that history doesn't just lie in textbooks. It lingers in DNA, in passed down stories, in the silence forced onto little girls and the wounds boys carry in place of childhoods. This story reminded me of Toni Morrison, the lyrical pain, the historical layering. The way trauma isn't just narrated, it's embodied. Packer writes with that same precision and restraint that cuts deep. And like Morrison, she refuses to offer neat resolutions. And here's something else that struck me. The bitter absurdity in so much of Black suffering. Death by infection from scratching your ear, a veterinarian diagnosing a child, a woman dying before she could be properly whipped. These are moments so cruel they become surreal. And that surrealism is exactly what makes the story powerful. You can't dismiss Dayward as just another slavery story. It's about now, too. Because even today, some African Americans feel uncomfortable with the very label African American, seeing it as a marker of otherness, of history that still clings like sweat. So yes, Dayward is historical fiction, but not in the sense of being over and done. It lingers. It echoes. It shows us how freedom was never a finish line, just a new battlefield. About the author, ZZ Packer is one of those writers who doesn't need to yell to be heard. Her writing is elegant, sharp, and layered. She was included in the New Yorker's 20 Under 40 list of fiction writers, and her debut collection Drinking Coffee Elsewhere, where Dayward appears, was widely praised. Her work deals with race, identity, and the often overlooked nuances of African American life. Final thoughts? Dayward is a quiet storm of a story. It hurts. It makes you think. It forces you to remember. And sometimes that's the kind of story we need. Thanks for watching. If you like this review, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. What did Dayward make you feel? What stuck with you? Let's talk. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.